Hello everyone, finally a new milk maker, and this is one that you guys have been asking me to review for a while, which is this guy right here. This is the larger Arcmira Nut Milk Maker. There's two larger ones now. The first one I did not recommend and I didn't get, and I'm not going to test, and it is glass, but it has a non-stick bottom, which seems like a really bad idea, especially if you're making soy milk, because you're going to have to really scrub that down at the bottom, and it's just not going to be pleasant. This is the box that came in. I'm going to show it to you, compare it to the Momat a little bit, to the smaller Arcmira so you can see, but this is the box. The box was pretty smushed in, but it had no damage. It's packed really well. Prices vary, but it is cheaper than most larger milk makers. The reason I like this one is because it's stainless steel on the inside. Okay, so you can see it's stainless steel. This is the, what I'm calling it the original. This is the small one. This is my favorite small milk maker. You can see it has a little discoloration because I've used it, and I make teas and coffee drinks in here as well. And I think you could expect that to happen. But you see it's quite a different size, even from the front. So while now the inside of these two are at least lined with this 304 stainless steel, there's a min and max, just like in the other one. But it's a slightly different size. Another thing that I noticed with these lids is this has three little holes there. You can kind of see that. This model of the small Arcmira has three little holes, and I find that that lets the steam escape without getting any boil over. If you are getting boil over, chances are you're not measuring your ingredients and then filling up to the min or the max line. That is not always the case, but it often is, okay? So that's where you see how, this is the one I take traveling. So we travel, I'll put tea, brew tea in here, because this one has a warm cycle that I believe goes 5 minutes, and we'll check it out in the materials that we have here, because we got two books. We got a little recipe book. We got a little how to use it book. I feel like Arcmira is growing up as far as some of the things that are on here now. There's like these instructional little stickers. So let's take a look at that for a second. So this one, which I'm giving you upside down, this one is saying align these two things. Don't do it like that. Align them. And also, you'll notice in the instructions, it's the same thing for the Arcmira, and in fact, almost all milk makers, if you plug it in without the lid on and then put your stuff in, it will give you an error message. Most of them will. So what you really should be doing is putting your ingredients in, put your water, put the lid on, and then plug it in. So it's very disconcerting though to kind of put things together, plug it in, and then immediately see an error message. But just know that that's okay. It's just the way they are. Basically, they're saying, there's not a lid. And you're like, I know. But they don't know. So they're not sure if you know all that. It's a bit smaller, and this is, except for the cashews, you get this little cup. You get a measuring spoon with a clip. It's kind of like a coffee one. I believe this might be about a tablespoon. You get a cleaning brush, and it has a fine mesh straining nut milk bag. This one's pretty fine, like it's very fine, almost like a paint strainer, I think. So that'll be kind of interesting. And then I wanted to do some measuring and see what we're looking at. This is the Momat. It is heavier. Now that I'm holding it, I'm like, it's way heavier. It is also more expensive. This is my favorite large milk maker, and the reason I like these two, and I'm hoping to like this one as well, is you can also make soy milk. Today, we're just gonna make like a vanilla maple cashew milk to try this one out, and I'll do some more milks as we come. But I've just made some tea and I need a little milk for it. But if you're worried, if this one's just too big for you, then that's something to think about. And I like, because actually this new Momat, I didn't notice its sticker about not working. I love the instructions on the Momat. I love the recipe books. You are paying a price for all that, and it's up to you to decide if it's worth it for you. But I'm thinking this might be a good one if you can't invest $200 in a milk maker. Originally this one was like $149. It was being priced off the Nutter, the little one, and now you can often get it $50, $60. This one, I just looked, and as of today, which changes, there was a coupon that would give you $20 off. Always when you're on Amazon, look at the things and look down below. If there's a checkbox for a coupon, check it. So that would bring this price significantly down. So that's a reason why you might want to get this one. Your budget matters. When I'm telling you about all the different milk makers, I'm not trying to get you to get just my two favorites. I'm telling you that they're my two favorites and why. But if you don't want to make soy milk and you want to make lots of nut butter, the Nutri-Milk is great, right? But the Nutri-Milk is quite expensive. It's like $500. There's a new Nama milk maker that's about $400. It also doesn't make soy. And hopefully I'm going to be trying that one out as well. But the reason I like the Momat better than the Almond Cow is they're similar in price. This one has heat and can make soups and different things, as well as soy milk. It doesn't strain, but I find using fine mesh strainers, and I'm experimenting with some other strainage. Also, Momat is, I was going to develop a different strainer that was not in plastic, and Momat is working on that. So I'm going to be hopefully getting to see a preview of that as well. All right, so let's take a look here. First things I wanted to do, oh, and I wanted to show you. Let's come here. All right, so like here, it's telling you about all the different functions. And on the Arcmiras, they're all pretty similar. Room temperature, we would probably make cashew milk on that. It doesn't need to be heated, warm, hot, boil. You can just boil water in there, and it has a self-cleaning function. It can keep warm. And then here's another sticker that's basically telling you what I said. Put your stuff in, put your water in, put your lid on, then plug it in. It's also saying that you can add anything extra that you want. Now, if I was doing soy milk, I would not add vanilla or maple syrup in with it. But with cashew milk, there's really not much to strain. So I'm not really worried about that today. Okay, so one of the things I was curious about, and this is the Momat cup, and I remeasured, and I wonder if I was using, it is actually a half cup. And it was kind of crazy. So I'm going to take these cashews, I'm going to fill up a Momat cup, because I'm just kind of testing all these too. And then this is a half cup. So this is a Momat cup, and it is a half cup. I thought it was a third of a cup, but this was the very latest one I got. And I can tell because it has the little Momat stuff on it. Now, this one is about a third of a cup. And this is the larger Arcmira one. I thought the Momat started out at a third of a cup. So there's a couple of good reasons at why you might measure these things. One is you have too many cups like me. The other one is, so if you lost it or you don't have it, you can do the same thing. They also said 3 scoops of these in the recipe book. And so I was curious if that was about the same. And it's close. I think the cup is a better measure because it's almost 4. Okay, so we're going to do what they said and use that. And I'll show you the recipe book really quick too. And it's pretty much the same. They're telling you how to make almond, cashew, oat, rice, and soy. So some of the tips are the amount used in the recipe is for reference only. You can adjust the amount of ingredients for flavor. And there is a QR code to watch videos from Arcmira. From my dealing with milk makers and people, how I like my milk may not be how you like your milk. You might be on, I hate soy milk, I only want cashew milk, or I only want almond milk, and there's nothing in the world wrong with that at all. You should make the milk you like, and if you like your milk thinner, use less of like the nut ingredient or the seed ingredient if you're making hemp milk or something like that. You can also add more or less water. I tend to go ahead and want to have the best bang for my buck, so I'm going to put in, for this one we're going to try 1/3 of a cup because I think we'll measure these later. But I think the measurements, I think this holds probably a little bit less, so I'm going to start with this. If I was doing the Momat, I typically use a 1/2 cup. And I use a 1/2 cup of soy, soaked or unsoaked. And here I believe we're going to start with 1/3 of a cup. And if you find that doesn't suit you, if that's too rich for you, use less. If it seems watery, you could use less water, or you could add more ingredients. So you have control over this, which is kind of cool. But a lot of people will be like, the milk is too thin, the milk is too thick. And if your milk is too thick, honestly, you can just add some water. Even if you've already strained it, you can do something like that, and that's an easy, quick fix. So this says how to make plant-based milk without a recipe. Don't add the sugar when you use warm and hot function. If you want to add sugar, add it when it's finished. And that's probably because it's cooking and it's going to thicken everything. I wouldn't say that that's the case when we're using dates, as we often do. Don't run the hot function repeatedly, which means the motor has to cool down. So you'll find like the Momat, and I believe the Arcmira too, have safety settings that don't let it happen, because you can burn these motors out. And it says real clear, if it shows E2, the lid isn't closed properly. And you're going to click the menu button, just like we do in this one, to go through those. The machine emits 10 beeps, and your milk is done. And you could strain it if you want to. So with the homemade cashew milk, we'll do this one, 3 spoons of raw cashews, no soaking, and I think this is 1 to 2 cups of water. And if that's the case, then it's making a lot less than this. But we'll live our best lives and find out. Optional, 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Often you'll see in these recipes a tiny pinch of salt. If you're salt-free, you totally do not have to do this at all. It will make your milk taste a little sweeter. That's why sometimes salt is added to things like this. So it's saying, put the ingredients in. So it's saying, go ahead and put, since we're using the room temperature setting and not one of the warmer settings, we can do this. All right. And we'll press cancel to stop if we need to. All right. So let's get this overhead going. All right, and I don't know if you can see right there, there's the min and the max. We're going to put our 1/3 of a cup of cashews in here. We are going, and I'm going to add all my ingredients that I'm going to add in before I run this, before I add water to the min and the max line. That's how you get yourself into trouble. I'm going to be using this kind of as a creamer, so I'm going to free pour, possibly this is vanilla maple syrup. You can kind of see the vanilla bean in there. Sorry. Ah, come back here, vanilla bean. You're not escaping. It's not your time yet. Okay. And since I'm kind of wanting this to be a creamer, I may even be adding a little more. And then I'm going to add a splash of vanilla in there. Having all of my ingredients in means I am less likely to overflow. And this will be a nice little creamer. So I'm going to put my water, I had to fill it up to the max line. And then, actually I'll put it in between. That way if I want to add more cashews, I can. So I'm going to put this on, and it goes on like this, so it's like as if it's a bottle, squinching it on. Okay. And I've got this little cord, so I'm going to plug that part in, and then I plug the other part in right here. Okay. And then let's see, I don't want start, I want menu. And that's how I can go through all the menus. Of course, I wanted the first one. Room temperature. And then I'm going to, there we go. So at about 1 minute, it seemed like it actually sped up a little bit, like slowed down and sped up. Okay, so there's the beeps. All right, so those were the 10 beeps. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug this, because if I don't, I'm going to get an error message. Okay, let's take a look together. So this just lifts off. Oh, it looks nice and frothy. That's one of the things I've liked about the smaller Arcmira as well, is how nice and frothy it is. We'll take a little. And because it's cashew milk, do you see how there's really just very little? So I went through, there's a tiny bit of sediment, but that sediment isn't even going to come out in a nut milk bag. I'm going to taste it. Oh, it's delightful. It could be a little more sweet for me, which might not be for you, but you can taste the vanilla very clearly. And so I thought what we would do is I would make my tea. And this isn't going to stay this froth, and it's not going to froth up amazing with your little frother. The two best frothing milks are going to be almond milk done on a warm setting, a heated setting, even though you can do almond milk on a cold setting, but it just thickens up and froths much better. In the Momat, I use a ½ cup of almonds to the max line. With soy milk, froths the best of all of them. Okay. And I can go ahead and use some of this froth here. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you, you can see some of the froth, but it's not going to get really stiff peaks. And if you wanted to put a syrup or a flavoring, you could do that there. If I'm making matcha, this can be really good to mix it up. But see, these actually, it's hard for you to see in the light, isn't it? These bubbles are not as thick and foamy as these bubbles. So when you make freshly made milk, what you can do is then, just as if you had steamed the milk, woo, you can miss your glass too. You can put some of this on top to have that foam, because it is going to eventually go down. So there's no need not to use it. So you see how you can see your regular old cashew milk under here if I move this. So you can kind of see it a little bit under there when I'm swiping these out. And I am making this tea, Haunted Doll. We got it at Salem from Vamp Fangs, and I think it says vampfangs.com there. And it's got black tea, apple pieces, cocoa nibs, rose hips, butterscotch flavor, marigold flowers. So it's pretty awesome. It smells kind of like butterbeer from the butterscotch. And when I make a tea latte, I usually do froth the milk some. Remember this, and then I pour it in like that. Oh, that's really good. So another thing I've done with the Arcmiras, especially the small one, is I will put it on the warm temp. And actually, which book? There's one of these books that, in addition to the sticker on the side that says what the different temperatures are for, and actually it's on the side. So warm, 3 to 5 processes, first heat for 3 to 5 minutes, then blends for 5 minutes. That's a little different than it used to be. So that means it's 10 minutes. Interesting. So that might be too hot to do tea, or too long to do tea in, because it's about 5 minutes countdown here. Let's see what it says. When the no, see here warm, it says in this one, when pressing the button menu, hold warm to 140. When the light is on, the machine will start to heat. When the temperature reaches that, then it will do a 5-minute countdown. So it'll be interesting. We'll try a tea in this next, like a tea latte, because we'll see if it holds true. Because what I'll do is I'll put the loose leaf tea in here, along with some cashews and some water, maybe a date or two, blend it on warm, and then strain it into a mug. And that's one of the things we use it for when we travel, is to make night-night tea. But this did great. I think a great first test. It works just like this one does, only it's just a little bit bigger. So if you're looking for kind of a less expensive milk maker that may not have like this giant motor, and especially if all you're wanting to do are things like easier milks, you just want to be able to make this. Because what I would do is then I would pour this into a container, put it in the fridge. It is going to separate, as all homemade milks do. And it will not last as long as the carton, so it's not going to last for weeks and weeks. And realize that the carton is separating as well, you just don't see it. So if you have this milk maker, the larger stainless steel inside Arcmira, please tell me about your experience with it and maybe what you found easy or harder. If you have some questions about milk makers in general, please let me know, because I want to be your source for milk maker information. All right, so have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you very soon.